Alright, YouTube, James O'Keefe has dropped the first part of what apparently is going to be a multi-part video series detailing corruption within the Clinton campaign. It's a half-doozy. It's not the Clinton is racist video. It's apparently preliminary investigative work. Apparently what happened is that O'Keefe and a number of operatives infiltrated the Democratic campaign for the course of a year. And if they can gain access to the heads of a super PAC, or somebody who works on the ground and doesn't even want to be publicly identified as associated with the Clinton campaign, this changes the metrics of my prediction. And I now favor the explanation that O'Keefe probably does have a tape of Clinton being what the average person would consider racist. I think that it probably does go, if this is the milder end, number one, specifically, and it involves them successfully infiltrating the head of a super PAC, it's not that big a step from some seven-figure salary persona who's raising millions of dollars for a political campaign. That's one step removed from Clinton herself, potentially, as far as the Democratic power level would go. These are the big hitters. If he can infiltrate them, then he can infiltrate, literally, Clinton herself. So I'm going to operate now from the assumption that that's probably true. O'Keefe's video, when dropped, if it exists at all, which I'm, again, assuming that is the case, it will destroy Clinton's campaign. She will not win. That is a big if, of course, if the tape exists. But he's dropping good material here. This, like I said, it's a half-doozy. It's not a campaign-killing, like, double-doozy. But it's pretty strong investigative journalism. What we see here is Scott Fovel, who's the head of one of these super PACs, openly proclaiming that, yes, indeed, loosely in tandem with the DNC, using a double-blind situation to coordinate. The first strike against the Clinton campaign is that it confirms that some of these super PACs are communicating with the campaign. They've just used a workaround system to communicate indirectly. They're using other groups as intermediates in order to coordinate with the DNC and Clinton herself indirectly. While this is technically not against the law, it is a deliberate attempt to breach super PAC law, and is thus worrying. To a lesser degree than the second revelation, though, the second revelation is a confirmation that, at least in some of these cases, when there have been riots or scuffles at Trump's rallies or Pence rallies, they're being caused by Democratic operatives. We've got it from the word of the head of one of these super PACs himself, as well as Aaron Black, who is sort of an undercover operative for the Democrats that doesn't even want to be publicly known, and works sort of behind the scenes and directly on the ground, apparently, in his own words again, with union thugs. Now, this has been a fixture of elections in the United States before. This isn't new. It happens on a state level and a federal level. You get some union muscle in, essentially, to raise havoc with your opponent's rally, intimidate somebody important or something like that. That happens on both sides and is, alarmingly quite routine during our elections. But to see it openly proclaimed by somebody working directly with a Democratic campaign, that's not great news for Hillary Clinton. Now, is this a campaign killer? No. Is it the last video he's going to release? No. There's apparently at least one more part to this investigative journalism. And then in addition to that, there's the Clinton tape. I guess he's saving the Clinton tape for even later. He's dropping these before the third debate. Part of that may be due to the fact that before the third debate, over the next 48 hours, what are people primarily talking about? They're talking about the third debate. The mainstream media, of course, the legacy media, would never run his material anyway, and unless he dropped the Clinton saying KKK stuff tape today, the mainstream media, don't look for them to cover this investigative journalism. Look for them to cover it up, brush it aside as a conspiracy theory if they mention it at all. But it will make the rounds. Some independent voters will see it. It's a bit long and dense, perhaps, to affect many people, but it is, at the very least, a confirmation of several of the claims that have been made by the Trump campaign. Yes, indeed, there are attempts to infiltrate Trump rallies with Democratic operatives. That has now been confirmed as true by the Democratic super PAC itself, one of their more major shareholders, so to speak. And that number two, yes, there is at least indirectly coordination going on between the DNC and the Clinton campaign and their major donors and their major backers, the super PACs. So that's pretty worrying, and to think that there's a part two to this at least, maybe a part three, maybe a part four, and then there's also the separate tape, which I assume is going to be like the last installment of this same investigative journalism. This just involves two specific higher-up individuals within the Democratic Party. Specifically, again, the head of a super PAC and somebody who does the on-the-ground work, sort of the field marshal figure, who doesn't necessarily have any real public relevance. If that is the lower end of the journalism they've conducted, if they can actually get these people into a conversation, get them to divulge fairly worrying, fairly damaging material to them, I have every reason to believe that yes, O'Keefe has in fact successfully infiltrated the Democratic Party at large to some degree. They've probably managed to gain access to certain higher-ups within the party at large. They may have indeed gained access to some sort of fundraiser, some sort of event, some sort of meetup, or whatever it happens to be, where Clinton herself is indeed, shouting stuff of at least a slightly racial tinged type. And if that's the case, her campaign is effectively over. She will not win the election. The odds of that actually being true, in my estimation, according to what I'm seeing here, have just risen. Not fallen. Of course, the Clinton is racist tape was never guaranteed that was the specific tape that was going to be released today. I don't know why he didn't choose to simply release that first. Again, like WikiLeaks released the least damaging material first, and it's now getting worse and worse and putting the screws on the Clinton campaign, really pressuring the media to actually cover it, the legacy media. Much like that, I'm assuming that the early stuff that he released over the last couple of days is like the least among you sort of material. This is a compilation of stuff that's, moderately damaging, and then the big shebang comes later. But this is at least a half-doozy, in my estimation. It won't move the metrics of public opinion significantly because the legacy media won't report on it. But, again, if this is the milder end of that larger material, then I can imagine, the Clinton tape probably is a double doozy. Maybe it's even more, maybe it's a triple doozy. Who knows? It could be Clinton literally ranting and raving about how much she hates black people. For all we know, oh, there's dumb black voters, I don't know why I'm not getting 100% of them, or something like that. That would be problematic for her campaign, considering, the demographics of North Carolina, Virginia, and Florida especially, as well as the larger Detroit area in swing state Michigan. It could be a little bit of a problem for her campaign if it comes to light that she said such things. I wish that O'Keefe would privately contact at least a handful of people who have shown, generally speaking, they're not going to let the cat out of the bag, so that they could confirm for their own purposes, this material is significantly damaging, or no, this material is more just innuendo that could be construed as racially motivated, or something like that. But I can understand why he's keeping it largely under wraps. It seems like a few people have reviewed the tape he has, and that it's indeed quite significant. I'm going to assume that that's probably true based on what I'm seeing here. But watch it for yourself, link in the description. That's about all.